this clip we're going to talk about the control of nut borer and false codling moth. Without proper control, these insects may damage up to 16% of the crop. The adult false codling moth can be identified by the presence of a whitish tuft on the dorsal side just behind the head, while the Macadamia nut borer has got a saddle-like structure in the same place just behind the head on the dorsal side. Initially, all the young larvae are looking very similar. They're sort of a creamy color, and as they mature towards the final stages, the false codling moth turns towards a brightish pink, while the Macadamia nut borer has got a russety, like brownish, blackish type of color. Scouting for nut borers and false codling moths are very important because if left uncontrolled, these insects can damage up to 60% of the crop. This 16% level includes nuts that drop prematurely. It also includes immature nuts, as well as direct kernel damage that one often sees in the processor. The scouting will also give the grower important information regarding the population dynamics of the insects. This is important because the only stage of these insects that can really be controlled is the young larval stage that often crawl for a few millimeters on the outer surface of the nut before tunneling into the nut. And this is also the only stage that these insects can actually come in contact with chemicals. This time of year, December and early November to mid-November, it's important to be in the orchard and look for any signs of nut borer damage. Nut borers are more prevalent in your larger out-of-season nuts, and you also see a lot of these large nuts laying on the orchard floor. These nuts should be inspected and should be cut open for signs of nut borer damage. First sign you must look for in any of the fallen nuts are these hatched eggs. They're normally whitish in color and fairly visible on the outside of a nut. The second sign normally is where the larva has emerged from the nut. In this case, you can see the emergence hole with the pupal casing protruding sort of halfway out of the hole. The third sign you will see is the entrance hole. These holes are normally a lot smaller than the emergence hole. And this is where the larvae penetrate the nut initially. After the nut was inspected, it's important to cut it open and to look for any activity of nut borers on the inside. And if the nut is infested, one should clearly see larval activity, like in this case on the inside of the nut. Pheromone traps are probably the most important method we can use in orchards to determine the flight activity of these moths. It looks like a simple technique. There are quite a number of factors that one will have to look at when one plays out the traps. First is to take out the old liner, insert a new liner. It's also very important not to touch the pheromone septum and to get some of the pheromones on your fingers, because if you touch the outside of the trap, it will make the traps less effective. This is then inserted back into the trap and can be used to lure new moths. It is then important to look at the old trap and to count the number of adult moths. It's also important to keep record of your weekly trap catches to see if population peaks are imminent, what's happening to the population. There are two types of control for the nut borers. First is chemical control with normal foliar sprays. Disadvantage of these chemicals is that it's really dependent on spray timing. Normally the window of opportunity is very small, and one has about 10 days to 14 days to apply the chemical once the bugs are the borers are in the desired stage. Second type of control, use pheromones. These products have to be applied by hand and require sometimes quite a serious amount of labor. Pruning for macadamia, nut borer and false codling moth control is important, as dense trees will harbour more insects than lesser dense trees. Reasons for those are twofold. Firstly, dense and tall trees are more difficult to spray. And secondly, it would appear that natural enemies have a difficult time controlling these insects in dense, overcrowded conditions. Scouting for eggs is important from mid-November to mid-January. Adults should be monitored with pheromones during the same time. Results for both monitoring methods should be combined for the best results. Pheromone traps should also be hung as high as possible on the trees. Avoid touching the dispenser or the rubber septum, as this will contaminate the outside of the delta trap, which will lower the efficacy of the trap.